Hello, ladies. It's such an honor to be here in Kuala Lumpur and part of Zafigo X today. I'd like you all to close your eyes. Everyone, close your eyes. Imagine a 19-year-old young woman living in Australia. She's at university studying medicine. She's really stressed out and not sure it's what she wants to be doing. This young woman has tasted life in another country because she was born in South Africa. She knows deep down that there is a new adventure awaiting her. She decides to change her destiny. She puts her university degree on hold, and in winter of 1998, she arrives in Paris, France. She doesn't care that she can't speak the language because everything about the city inspires her. The artist inside blossoms. She realizes that she will never go back to study medicine and begins to prepare her entry into the fine art school in Paris. Everything about her life in Paris is exhilarating. For this young woman, it's a true coming-of-age story. It has its challenges because being a foreign student and self-funding, she has to work part-time in a bar. Imagine a place filled with friends from France and abroad who come together to share the good moments and the bad, just like a family. Little did this young woman know that her life would change so abruptly on the 18th of July, 1999, just 18 months into her Paris adventure. You can open your eyes now. It was 3 a.m. I had just closed up the bar with my colleagues. I was exhausted. It had been a double shift. I turned down the offer to go for a drink, and I headed for a taxi instead. I had less than 100 meters to walk down a street that I knew so well. I didn't make it to the taxi that night. A man intercepted my path. What followed was an hour of brutal violence, strangulation, the taste of death, and rape. I fought so hard to get away from this man, but the more I fought, the more he beat me, until eventually he was able to get me to the ground and strangle me with his bare hands. I lost consciousness. I thought it was the end of my life. The universe had other plans, and I woke up moments later being dragged by my hair up some stairs. I immediately began my struggle to get away. I didn't want to die in Paris. My attacker was prepared. He had a gun, a knife, and a can of mace. He threatened to shoot me. He used the knife to cut me, and the mace served as a tool to make his punch more brutal. The attack just kept getting more and more violent until a fist punch to my eye caused such a loud popping sound in my head that I realized that if I continued to struggle to get away physically, I was going to die. Something shifted. I remembered a talk from my last year in high school, a story of survival and techniques of how to escape a dangerous situation. I began to converse with my attacker. I told him that I was terminally ill and that I'd be dead by the end of the year. He didn't believe me at first and hit me even harder, but I kept talking. I shared details of my life with this man. I clung to the story as if it was truth. None of it stopped him from hurting me or raping me, but what it did do was humanize me. And I believe with every cell in my body, it's what saved my life that night. As I lay on the streets of Paris, naked and beaten, trying to locate my torn clothing, I began to feel how injured I was, and I knew I had to go to hospital. If I went to hospital, that meant I would have to report the attack. I had heard horror stories about how rape was handled in Paris. That night, I made the decision with myself to face the difficult road ahead of being a rape survivor in a foreign country. I waited 5 hours in emergency before a doctor came to see me. And to make it even worse, he looked identical to my attacker. Now, in any other situation, this wouldn't be an issue, but for a rape survivor, it's catastrophic. I faced victim blaming by the people that were meant to help me. I was never offered an interpreter or even a moment to rest. I was interrogated over and over again by the police. And being a foreigner in France meant that I had to pay for all of the costs related to the rape. My dream of becoming an artist in Paris was shattered. I stayed on for 3 more months to help the police with their investigation and to have follow-up for my medical injuries. The police didn't manage to catch my attacker, and in 2000, I returned to Australia and attempted to piece together a new life. I very quickly went into denial and became so busy that I didn't have time to think about what had happened to me. I didn't allow myself to heal properly. This all changed in June 2009. 3 weeks before the 10-year mark of my rape, the French police called me and asked me if I could get to Paris within 48 hours to do a lineup. They believed they had caught my attacker. He had reoffended, and there was a DNA match. Fortunately, I was living and working in Switzerland, and I could get to Paris in time. I ID'd my attacker immediately. Even after 10 years, I remembered this man so clearly. The memories of that fatal night came flooding back, and my world began to crumble. I was plunged into the most traumatic period of my life. In France, rape is not seen as a crime against the state. This means that if the victim doesn't prosecute, the perpetrator walks free. If I wanted any kind of justice, I had no choice but to find a lawyer and pay for it. It cost me more than $40,000 to put my attacker in jail. In November 2011, my attacker was sentenced to 12 years in jail. But in June 2013, less than 2 years later, he was released on parole. The irony is that my battle with the French justice didn't end there and continued until October 2015. My story of survival lasted 16 years, most of my adult life. Despite the difficult and expensive battle with the French justice system, something very important happened in that time. I hit rock bottom. Trying to balance a stressful job and rape trauma is almost impossible. We have to put on this brave, strong face to the outside world when everything is breaking apart inside. I knew that my only solution was to find a way to heal. Because all of my money was going into the legal proceedings, I couldn't have traditional counseling. So I turned to self-help books, spirituality, and running. These 3 things took me on an incredible journey of self-discovery, healing, empowerment, and learning to love myself like I have never done before. I knew deep down that my story had a bigger purpose, and one day I would use it to help others. In 2014, I began to talk openly about my story. It's a terrifying thing to do, but I felt strong enough, I felt healed enough, and I was ready. The most powerful thing that has happened since sharing my story is that I have given others the courage to do the same thing. Women, men, and children around the world have opened up to me, many never having told anyone before. What I've realized from these stories is that there are many shades of sexual violence, not just rape. And unlike my story, most people know their attacker. It doesn't matter what country you come from, what age you might be, what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man, or a child, heterosexual, homosexual, asexual, rich, poor, or in between. Sexual violence will cross all of these boundaries. 1 in 4 women will experience sexual violence in her lifetime. 1 in 6 men will have been sexually abused before the age of 18 years old. 230 million children are sexually abused every single year. Just in this room today, more than a quarter of us have a story, or one day have a story. This makes sexual violence one of the largest epidemics of our time. I knew I had to do something to change this. In 2016, I gave up my job and sold everything I had to raise enough money to get started. And I have dedicated the next years of my life to being a voice for women, men, and children around the world. I am running 16 kilometers of beach in every single country and dependency of the world. That's 230 countries, with the specific goal to peacefully end sexual violence. It's called Footsteps to Inspire. Sport and travel is this most powerful way of bringing communities together and creating change. Even though I am a solo female traveler, I very rarely run alone. When I arrive in each country, I reach out to people and invite them to run with me, or even just to walk with me. What I have noticed is that people want to talk about sexual violence, they just don't know how. Through Footsteps to Inspire, I'm creating this safe space for conversation and understanding. A great example was in Papua New Guinea, country number 5, where over 200 people joined me for the run. I have already been to 44 countries across most regions of the world. I ran in Malaysia last year in March, and I'm now running through Europe. I'm still not quite sure about this winter barefoot running thing. This was taken earlier this year, and it happened to be the coldest week of the year. I had no idea what to expect when I started out. No one else has created this kind of movement before. But when I think about all of the incredible people that I have met on this journey and the stories we have shared, I am so deeply humbled. There are very few women in the world who get the opportunity to say that they now have friends in every single country of the world. And this is the magic of travel. In the Solomon Islands, I met with the local police to talk about all of the good work they are doing for rape victims. Last year, I ran in Kenya, and a local businessman helped me reach a very remote part of Mombasa, where I spoke to over 100 schoolgirls being affected by rape as they walk to school. This is one of my most cherished memories and probably happiest moments of the journey so far in India. India was a particularly challenging country, and I had to survive for 2.5 weeks without any money. And Tanzania. The woman in the black t-shirt is 60 years old, and she's never run before. She ran the entire 16 kilometers of beach with me that day in Tanzania. And some of these incredible people traveled over 200 kilometers to join me on the journey. I'm only 20% of the way through. There's still 186 more countries to go. I can't even imagine what I will see and hear by the time I have finished. It hasn't always been easy. Actually, nothing about this journey is easy. But what adventure travel is. Every day I hear stories of horror. I find myself in dangerous countries where I have to keep myself safe. My budget is non-existent because I've run out of money. But none of this is going to stop me from reaching women, men, and children affected by sexual violence in every single country of the world. People often ask me, how can I do what I'm doing? Don't I want to put my story behind me and forget about it? I can't. It's part of who I am now. The woman I would have become before the rape is not the woman I am today. And I don't see this as something negative. We get to choose how we let trauma impact our lives. Either we see it as a lifetime of suffering, or it becomes something else. It becomes something that makes us stronger. It becomes something that we can use to help others. This is how I see it. I've taken my tragedy and I've turned it into triumph, inspiring change along the way. I encourage you to do the same thing. We all have the capacity to make this world a better, safer place. Yes, I know sometimes as a woman it's really scary. But ladies, our time is now. So what can you do from today to conquer that fear inside and go out there and see the world? Make healing a priority. When you are good with yourself, you feel strong and you feel empowered. When you are good with yourself, you care less about what people think of you and you make the right decisions for you. Many of us have a story of trauma holding us back from living our dreams. You get to choose how you deal with that trauma. Take that leap of faith and heal yourself. Dream big. You get to decide what kind of life you live. We all have fear inside, but when you're dreaming big, that fear just gets smaller and smaller. Okay, we may not reach our biggest dream, but at least you start going in the direction, and that's much better than not dreaming at all. Be prepared. Heading out on a journey as a solo woman has its risks. We can't deny that. However, a little preparation can take you a really long way to staying safe in a country. Preparation can include things like researching where you're going, giving your itinerary to someone you trust, or having travel insurance in place. Preparation can also include doing a safety class or a self-defense course before you leave and talking to locals on the ground for tips and suggestions. Don't neglect preparation. It's your key to safety. Trust in the unknown. This is the ultimate of travel. It's not always about the destination. It's the journey of how you get there that shapes the experience. Sometimes you have to be in a country to know what to do next. Trusting in the unknown doesn't mean not being prepared. It means knowing when to go with the flow. I wouldn't want any other woman to live through what I did in Paris. That is why I actually run special online workshops to help prepare women to travel safely and to know what to do on the ground. If anyone is interested in joining one of these workshops, I would like to honor all of you here at Zafigo X and head across to footstepstoinspire.org/safe. You will learn techniques and tips to know what to do to travel safely and also what to do in a worst-case scenario in a country. Ladies, don't let fear and trauma stop you from living your dreams and traveling. Now is your time. Go out there and see the world. If you'd like to follow me on this incredible journey, head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow @Footsteps to Inspire. I would also like to extend a huge invitation for you all to come and join me somewhere in the world. There's still 186 more countries to go, and you don't have to run, you can walk. So I think we can make this happen. I'm going to be around all weekend. Please come up and talk to me if you feel you'd like to share a story, and ask me any kind of specific questions about what has happened. And we'll see each other tomorrow for a panel and a women's circle for a safe space to share some more. Thank you so much, and enjoy your time here at Zafigo X.
Thank you, Claire.